Hey guys, Czar here. Hope all is well. Trust you're having a good day. Happy Friday to you. It's March 8th, 9:29 in 30 seconds. You know what that means? It means that this New York session is about to open any moment now. And this is the 1 minute Three Sisters chart, or grid I should say. NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow with VWAP, volume weighted average price, 2.5 standard deviations on either side. And about 10 seconds to go until we open here. I will be cutting out dead air, sideways grinding action, things of that nature. I don't actually record my trades anymore, but I have done for the last week because the setups have been so interesting going into the opens here that I've been recording most of my trades. As a matter of fact, I think I recorded nearly all of them this week, and I may have a chance to today. It depends. I got some things going on here at the homestead, and so I might get distracted here, but we'll see what the open offers us at the very least. I know I have until about 10 a.m. at the very least. Here we go. This is the first minute, guys. So the open range, you see it forming there, high and low of the 1 minute candle, and that will set for the entire day. It'll move out to the right, and that will be the 1 minute open range. Nothing magical about it, especially when it's right on VWAP like you see here. Always kind of interesting when you see that. It actually becomes more relevant later on as prices deviate away from it, whether it's down or up, and then make a move from there. In the middle of a range here, guys, on the 30-minute chart, that's the NASDAQ. Something similar, reasonably similar here on the S&P. I'm going to move this zone marker up for those two pre-market candles, pre-New York candles that had equal bodies or relatively equal bodies. That's the S&P. This is the Dow, dropping the zone marker down to here. This was the big candle for NFP this morning, 8:30, and now looking to make a move higher here on all three, as a matter of fact. Got some space to go here on the Dow. That looks a little bit interesting to me, but the Three Sisters are not cooperating perfectly. S&P following the Dow, which makes sense given the consistency of holdings here, overlap I should say. NASDAQ stuck in the open range and now wanting to go higher, but now the Dow's coming down, right? There's a little bit of confusion here. And with the open range play, it's all about putting together a story of many, many moving parts, not just what you see here or what I see here relative to the open range. It's not enough to just sell because prices drop below the open range or buy because prices rally above. I'm looking for consistency and story here across the board in a perfect world. I'm looking for the structure on the 30-minute to see where we stand relative to zones. I'm looking for the daily candle, in this case an inside day so far here today. We had been below last week's low. This is the weekly range right there, high and low. Now we're back inside of last week's range, right? And inside of yesterday's range. Watching now, this is the Dow, guys. Back to the NASDAQ right here. Back to the NASDAQ. Taking a while to load up. A little frustrating when it does that, but we'll survive. Nothing interesting going on here for me. You'll see we're basically, well, we're just above the open range on the Dow, on the open range, top on the S&P, inside the open range on the NASDAQ. I'm thinking about all of these structures here. That's the NASDAQ. I'm thinking about where we are positionally on the 30-minute chart here on the S&P, right near the top, right where we had this pre-market zone marker. This is the Dow, just trying to push up here. Could put a marker here just for fun to remind my brain that there was something here in Europe. Just watching here, guys. Just kind of meandering around. Not a whole lot happening here. Three Sisters inside on the NASDAQ, just on top, and inside on the Dow. This is Friday too, guys. I've had a rollover here on the futures contracts. Had to redo all my zones, of course, as I'm sure you do too, if you trade futures. Just want to make it clear that even though I'm showing this grid to you, I'm looking at everything, right? I'm looking at this breaking down now, breaking below that candle, watching the three sisters here. No, nothing going on here, guys. We're trying to break down here below on the NASDAQ, but staying very firm here on the S&P and the Dow. When I say very firm, we're just staying level, not being able to get below VWAP here. So VWAP and the open range holding this thing up. No sense of direction, no sense of fuel, caffeine, any of those things. All right. Some buying here on the Dow and the S&P. Let's take a look. There's the S&P looking like it wants to go higher here. All right, guys. Right here, guys, buy stop order. Buy stop order on the S&P. Just above there. I'm okay that it feels a bit late. I stop down here. And almost in. I'm going to look away for a second, but that's my entry right there. And I'm in, guys, and I'm in. Now, the reason I chose the S&P, and I don't really trade ES that much, is because it is the cleanest run here to the upside. You can notice the daily is very, very clean. We've had a nice orderly pullback here this morning and now breaking above prior day's high and all-time high. We are in all-time high territory here, and that's kind of where I want to be. The Dow is in agreement, but the NASDAQ is not. Well, it's not that it's in disagreement, but it's not doing anything. It's lying dormant here in the open range and right on VWAP. We are above VWAP, above open range, and above EMAs, and a positive moving average configuration, and at all-time highs, and above prior candles, and so on and so forth. So this is, to me, the place to be. The Dow making a clean run. It's actually making a bigger run than the S&P. But the Dow had some issues here. I just want to explain everything to you here if I can. The Dow has some issues running into resistance right now. See that there? Very key resistance from yesterday's New York session. These are the same participants, of course, that created that are back into play here. It doesn't mean we can't blow right through this. We might just completely decimate those markers, and that's fine too. But it's all about the most certain move and the most likely probabilities, of course. That's what this game is all about. So this is a trend continuation. It's also a zone break style trade. All right, guys, coming up on 1 hour here, I'm going to expand this to 1.5 hour. I can see that there's some buying coming in on all three now. Even the NASDAQ has broken out of the open range to support this trade idea. Let me show that to you here. See that there? There's the NASDAQ, S&P, and the Dow, right? So all three sisters now in agreement, breaking session highs, trying to anyway, here on the NASDAQ as well. This is the one that we're in, the S&P. I'll show you that the three sisters are all in perfect agreement and alignment now. With that breaking above on the NASDAQ, here's the S&P, took it first, and then the Dow about the same time, and moving higher nicely. So this is a consensus across the broad marketplace to buy U.S. stocks, and that's what I look for in these market open plays, not necessarily an open range play, right? This is actually not an open range play. This is a trend continuation trade. We're in a rampaging bull market, impulse corrective, impulse corrective, impulse, new high on the daily here on the all-time high on the daily on the S&P, breaking into a fresh traffic zone where there has never been any trading in the history of the universe, which is probably over 13 billion years. So nothing much to hold it back here. I'm only looking for 1.5 hour. I shouldn't say only. It's a very nice payday after a pretty good week this week. and just want to maintain this income generation and protection, right? So here we are. And we're done, guys. 1.5 hour. Nice clean trade. This is a zone break and a trend continuation trade. The open range was involved in it, just like the EMAs were involved in it, and structure was involved in it, and zones were involved in it. This is not an open range play as such. It is near the market open, but it is a trend continuation play. And I always want to make sure that we're defining these properly so we don't get too focused on one thing, and that we are always taking the entire picture, the story, into consideration on these trades. Have an amazing day, guys. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, too. And we'll see you soon. Take care.